You're listening to a Bored to Death Mandocast, talking all things Star Wars in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the Bored to Death Mandocast. I am Jay, being joined by
Chris.
And we are back to continue watching Star Wars The Bad Batch. We missed last week due to you had a headache when you got home from work.
Oh, that was last Saturday, and, well, I had a lot of work hours last week. Not days, just a lot of work hours. So, I think it started affecting me on Saturday, so I wasn't really going to be able to fully commit to the recording or the viewing. So.
And, it made sense to just sort of skip last week. So we're going to be doing 2 episodes this week. Episode 5, Rampage, and then episode 6, Decommissioned. Looks like the Bad Batch are going to start taking on some mercenary work.
I was just thinking that because of the description for episode 5.
Yep, the Batch strike a deal to take on a mission. And then it looks like they're going to run into some smugglers in episode 6, because it says, on a mission to acquire a valuable asset, the Batch encounters smugglers after the same target.
Is that supposed to be an impersonation of the
Clone Wars guy?
Yeah.
Sort of. I used to know the name of that guy. He had a stroke, after he recorded the intro to the first episode of The Bad Batch. That was my phone. Let me just mute that so it doesn't do that again. That was sort of my attempt at doing that voice. Wasn't the best because I was half-assing it. Well,
yeah, you don't want to get fully committed.
Yeah. Never go full in on something.
No.
Zeke is still not joining us for this one. He's now a few episodes behind, but he may be returning at some point in the future. But for now, he's taking a bit of a break. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, the workload.
And everything. He'll probably be joining us when we start doing Low-Key for the Ramblecast next week. So
do you think he'll be low-key?
Stop. Just stop. Last episode that we did was when we were sort of introduced to Fennec Shand. They brought her in because she's been hired by someone, we don't know who specifically, but has been hired to find Omega.
I'm still saying it's got to be the Imperials because they don't have an issue with hiring bounty hunters.
This is true, but the Empire is looking to kill them. She was not looking to kill them. She was just looking for Omega. I think if she's been hired by anyone, it's the Kaminoans.
Possibly them too.
Because we know they want one of the enhanced clones to basically use as a new marketing pitch to the Empire.
You too can have this.
It's like, why go through the expense of finding capable conscripts and recruits when you could just have our custom-made clones, purpose-built, programmed the way you want them to be.
Would you like your own Order 66 where they wipe out their leaders? We can do that for you.
All clones come with a free fail-safe switch. Machine.
Money back guaranteed.
No, I don't think the Kaminoans would return money, but that's okay because the Empire doesn't strike me as the kind of people that actually pay.
It's like, we'll take this, and this, and
you're going to
5 of those.
It's like, okay, and so here's part of the money, and it's like, get started on it. It's like, okay, here's your first batch of clones. Okay, good. Let me take a look at all your equipment here. Okay, I think we know what to do here, so we don't need you anymore.
It's like Boba Fett, or no, not Boba Fett, but Jango when he stole Slave 1, and he destroyed all the other models, so therefore Slave 1 is the only model of that ship.
I was not aware of that one. That must be in some old Legends continuity.
I believe it is, but the way I see it is that they're reintroducing so much of the Legends continuity into the new Star Wars universe.
But you can't assume that anything from Legends is canon until Disney says it is.
It's unfortunately true.
But, we have Filoni and Favreau in charge of things now, so it's more likely that stuff's going to become canon sooner or later. But we still can't assume that it is canon until they say so.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to finally put Starkiller back in.
That would be awesome. What if that's what the end game is for Bad Batch? They get themselves a Force-sensitive clone.
Well, he was a clone.
A proper like Jedi's level clone.
I mean, he was a clone. He didn't really become a clone until Force Unleashed 2.
Yes, I know, but hey...
It could happen.
Now, the thing that I'm wondering is, when we get to Episode 6, is it says smugglers. Who do we know that works as a smuggler?
Dash Rendar.
Well, that we've seen in the new canon.
Han Solo.
Well, except he's too young.
Yeah, that, and plus I think he's still on his home planet.
On Corellia.
On Corellia. So, probably doing all the runnings on that without the Millennium Falcon. Who else do we know that's a smuggler?
Hondo.
Oh yeah, I just see him more as a space pirate than a smuggler.
But come on, if there's going to be a smuggler involved in this, because we know that they prefer to reuse characters as much as possible rather than introduce too many new ones.
It's a good idea, especially if the character has never been killed before. So.
And we know that he makes it to Rebels.
Yeah.
Come on, you want to see Hondo show up again.
I do. I really do.
Because he's like our favorite scumbag, low life.
And he sees the clones and he wants to know where Obi-Wan Kenobi is.
Yeah, basically, it's just sort of like, or no, he probably looks at them like, you're clones, but you look a little bit weird. I forget exactly how Hondo sounds, but it's sort of like that.
I think if I remember correctly, Jim Cummings was doing a non-French version of the Don Carnage voice.
God, I watch Don Carnage now, and an inexplicably French pirate, to show up at some point.
Well, hey, the Empire's all British, so why not?
Exactly, come on. Why have we not had an Imperial that has an actual German accent? Because they're basically patterned off Nazis.
Do you really want to have a German-voiced Imperial officer and he's wearing the knee-high boots?
I mean, they're already ticking all the Nazi boxes as it is.
It's like Nostalgia Critic in that when he did his Star Wars The Holiday Special review, and it gets to the parts where the Imperials show up at Chewie's family's house on Kashyyyk, and when he walks over, Doug goes, "We hear you are hiding Jewish Evox."
Oh God! No wonder people have tried to disown that shit.
It's a lot more than you think it is.
I bet it is.
And yes, I have watched the holiday special because you can find it in its
this
entirety.
Explains so much about your so-called sanity.
No, that was before. Yeah. I already knew what I was in for. I already knew Carrie Fisher had a musical moment at the very end.
Oh God. Anyway. We have to be careful before we just start rambling at for no particular reason. So we've got.
It's like that's right. We have 2 episodes to watch.
Yeah, you and I can do a Ramblecast anytime we want, but we have an actual purpose for this one. So, Bad Batch, episode 5, episode 6. We'll see you after the binge.
Hey. While we're watching this episode, you should go ahead and toss us a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out, do it via our social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death Clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast tribe, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Park Hopper 101, and The Nerd Table. Imperial credits may not be worth much, but remember to support CKCC Radio on Patreon. I have spoken.
And we're back. So, we got to see some sort of new old faces in the case of the first episode.
One of them not being the 2 faces that we got weren't who I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, same. And then in the second episode that we watched, Decommissioned, we got to meet another couple faces that we weren't expecting, that neither of us was expecting. But when they showed up, I immediately sat forward. I was like, "Wait, is that?" But we'll get to that in a bit. First one, Rampage. So they come to Ord Mantel, just looking for information on the bounty hunter that they ran into in the previous episode, and they hook up with a information broker of sorts that Echo knows about from when he was working alongside the Jedi during the Clone Wars. A person called Sid. Once they finally figure out who Sid is, and they basically just like, we're just looking for information. And Sid's like, all right, well, if you do this job for me, then I can look up this information for you. And tells them that there's some slavers nearby that have a kid or a child. I think is how Sid put it. There's a child called Muchi. So they're like, all right, well, they're like, they don't really want to do this job for her, and she's like, this is how mercenary work functions. It's just like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. There's also a bounty for getting Muchi back, and I'll split it with you 70-30, my favor. And so you'll get paid for this as well as get the information you're looking for. And they're like, okay. And Omega's now got her own little like tack wristband thing, like the clones have.
It's basically a communication device.
Yeah, and they basically state it was crosshairs. He's obviously not using it, so. And so they find the slavers, and they see a few slaves that have already been collared, waiting to get sold or whatever, and they see a young child there with their parent, and so they're like, there's Muchi. Okay, so now we gotta get in there. Except the slaver leader has this like pet dragon, and they get caught.
It's like a giant flying lizard, essentially.
Sort of like a lizard with like flying squirrel, wings kind of thing.
I don't know, the way that its body was formed kind of reminded me of the lizard from Rescuers Down Under. The guy who had the pet lizard.
Joanna.
Yeah, but if it had the ability to glide.
Yeah, now that you say that, I get some of the same vibe there. But the batch gets captured. Now Omega got sent back to the ship because this is a job for soldiers, kind of thing, and you're still just a kid. You don't even have a weapon. And so, but she figures out real quick that they've been captured. She manages to avoid the scouts that find the ship. She catches up to where the slavers were, sees that her friends have been caught, so she goes to stealth mission mode, creeping around to try to get to their gear. And then as she sort of maneuvers her way around, she comes across this big like animal like cage, and there's something in there. And as soon as I saw like the kid with that in the slave collar, I was like, I don't think that's Muchi. Muchi's probably somebody else.
But I just like how Riker was talking to her, was like, don't worry, we're the cavalry.
Yeah. And then, but when Omega landed on the cage and looked in and saw that there was something in there, I immediately turned to you. I was like, that's Muchi. And she opens up the cage, and inside, and we should note, we cut back briefly to Sid, who was talking with Bib Fortuna on Hollow.
Okay, just to put in perspective, you don't fully see Bib Fortuna's face, but you can hear him talking.
And he's speaking Huttese.
But you kind of like somewhat see like the tentacle that's on the back of his head.
That one that wraps around his neck.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, that's the dude who always hangs out in Jabba's palace.
He's Jabba's major domo, his second in command.
So I think that's when like we started putting two and two together as to who Muchi really was.
Well, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, the kid is definitely not Muchi. So who is Muchi? And then when she lands on the cage, I was like, that's Muchi. And then you were like, baby Rancor? And yeah, it was adolescent Rancor, but
I don't want to know what a baby Rancor actually looks like, because like
it's not as cute as a baby Yoda.
And
not that Muchi was necessarily disgusting looking like he ends up being in Return of the Jedi. We'll get to that in a bit, but
yeah.
But when they at that point, Wrecker sort of managed, with the guards all distracted with the rampaging Rancor. Wrecker just sort of rips the collar off, rips the chains loose, sets everybody free, and one of the other slaves kind of reminded me of the fat Keeper from Return of the Jedi.
Well,
who starts crying.
You were the one who was like, "That's the Keeper."
Yeah,
that's the reason why he was crying.
Yeah. Except at the end of the episode, we saw him leave with the alien dude and his kid. So, but who knows? Maybe Jabba, or Bib Fortuna saw them, was like, "You want a job?"
That might be it, or it's probably because he couldn't really go with them to deliver Moochie, so he probably just went, I'll
catch up later.
Yeah, I'll meet up with you at Jabba's palace.
But regardless, so they managed to take down the slavers. To get the Rancor under control, Tech basically tells Wrecker they have a social hierarchy. You need to challenge the Alpha. And Wrecker's like, okay, puts his gun away, cracks his neck. It's like, okay, I've got this.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. And then when the rest of them catch up later, the two have still been fighting, but they're both tired, just sort of swinging drunkenly, not even hitting each other.
How long have they been going for? Too long.
And then then Moochie sort of falls over, Wrecker collapses on top of him, and Hunter's like, "Good job, Wrecker." And Wrecker's like, "Yeah," thumbs up. And then, and we should note, Omega finally gets herself a weapon. She picks up this little energy bow that one of the guards had, and sort of takes it with her. And I'm like, hey, she's found her weapon. Of course, it takes her a full episode later to finally learn how to use it properly. But so then they deliver Moochie to Bib Fortuna. The batch gets paid, and they get told who Fennec Shand is. She's a rising star in the Bounty Hunter Guild. She's new on the scene, but she's been turning a lot of heads.
I wonder if that's the reason why Boba essentially revived her after she was essentially killed in Mandalorian.
Maybe, or it's possible that the two of them, had met prior to that moment in Mandalorian, and maybe that's why she was hanging out on Tatooine, because she was waiting for him because she was there maybe to try to pick him up, because I gather she probably had a ship somewhere,
possibly.
But at any rate, so they get told who Fennec Shand is. They get paid, and Sid's just sort of like, hey, there's going to be more. There's always the possibility of more work. And Hunter's like, I'll think about it. But Bib Fortuna is very happy to see Moochie. Moochie seems to recognize him and is like, but then it was after that, we're just sort of we were both like, we're going to feel sorry. We're going to start crying with the Keeper now. At the end of
that's what I was. That's what I was like. Great, now we're going to actually be crying with the Keeper.
We're going to have guilt now.
It's like, no, Moochie, no! Damn it, Luke.
The Jedi are the real monsters. Then again, we don't know exactly how Jabba necessarily treated.
I mean, Moochie was kind of kept underneath his freaking palace in that one room for so long that it's like, all right, I don't like you, and then he would.
Well, then again, Jabba was kind of pissed off to see that Moochie got killed.
Yeah,
and it depends on whether you consider the.
Moochie was a good way to destroy evidence.
True, it never happened if they can't find the body.
And I don't think
if depending on how much of Tales from Jabba's Palace is still canon, there was a story about the Keeper in that short story collection, Tales from Jabba's Palace. He was on the verge of smuggling Moochie, or the Rancor rather, out of the palace so he could be set free somewhere. And it was literally the next day was when the escape plan was supposed to happen.
I remember reading about that, and that's the reason why he was crying. That's
why one reason he was crying so much. It was just he was one day away from retirement. But so that was the first episode. In the second episode, Decommissioned, we got to see Omega practicing with the energy bow in Sid's bar, and she's struggling with it. She's got the usual sort of archers struggle, to try to get it to full draw sort of thing, which is something that just takes time, especially if you're going for the full draw. But You don't necessarily have to, and I think she finally figures that out by the end of the episode. But
it's like, I don't really need to do the full draw if they're...
But Echo is like trying to teach her. It's just like, you need to learn to tune out distractions, and that comes with practice.
And it's like, yeah, but I got the bull. I hit the target 3 times. Yeah, out of 12.
That's luck, not skill. But Sid comes to them again. It's just like, got this job. Somebody wants a tactical droid head. There's one on Corellia in the decommissioning center. If you bring it back, you'll get paid handsomely for it. And the batch is, still sort of needs money, so they're like, okay. They go to Corellia by hitching a ride on like a freighter, just like the Millennium Falcon did in Empire Strikes Back, by hitching that ride on the back of a Star Destroyer.
It seems to be a popular method.
Well, I mean, it's a smuggler's sort of thing, or if you're trying to hide out from, say, Imperial sweeps. But so they get there, they touch down, they find the decommissioning plant, which is being patrolled by police droids. And well, we knew from the episode description that they were going to run into some other people also after the target. And when they show up, it's the sisters from the last season of Clone Wars, from Ahsoka's story arc. And it's just like when the first one showed up and lifted the helmet she used to disguise herself to get into the facility, I immediately sat up. I was like, wait, is that... Because I recognized her, and then the other one lifted her helmet, and it was the other sister. I was like, yeah, that's her. That's Trace and Rapa.
Yeah, that's them.
And, so there's a bit of a fight over who gets the tactical droid head, and then...
the security droids.
Well, the Omega's energy bow gets knocked out of her hand by Rappa, and it goes off and blasts a hole in the side of a furnace or something.
I think it was
the
more like
smelter.
I think it was more like something that was used to keep things cool, so that way it's like not too hot in there.
Maybe, but whatever the case, it alerted the workers, who immediately called security and locked down the building. And so then it becomes just sort of like trying to shoot, hold their ground against increasing waves of police droids while they try to reboot the system to end the lockdown. And poor Wrecker is dealing with his fear of heights, because first getting in, they have to climb up a long ladder to get to an entry point, and then later he has to. They're on catwalks above like the furnaces and the smelters and everything. And so he's just like, ugh. And then he has to jump across a gap to get to the master control panel. And when he finally, does make the jump, he knocks his head against the against the console.
Do you want me to use the joke that I used?
Go ahead.
I said any more knocks to the head, he's going to end up being like Chris Benoit.
And my response was immediately like, God damn it, no. That is just, no, that's not funny. Because what happened with Chris Benoit was not funny.
It was a tragedy.
Very, very much so. But he manages to flip the switch before he basically, falls unconscious from the concussion that he just suffered.
I literally just want to see them look at his medical records and just be like, dude, you've had a lot of concussions, man. How are you still functioning?
At this point, you've got more scar tissue in your head than actual brain matter.
Oh, look, there's the chip.
Right.
Meanwhile, the chip is sitting there going, let me out!
Well, and we should comment on that. While he's struggling to wake up, as he's like trying to get up, we hear him start going, "Good soldiers," and as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Oh no, that's not good." But they finally managed to break out of there. But to do it, they basically hack into the tactical droid's head because it's already been dismantled, and use it to basically wake up the other separatist droids that are in the facility. And program them to attack the security bots. And because as they all basically get released and start standing up from like the conveyor belts and everything, they're all like bent and slightly burned and missing components. I was like, it's zombie droids.
And one of them was like, did we win?
Yeah. Well, that's like the little clankers, as opposed to the super battle droids that are the
The ones that don't talk.
The ones that are just sort of like... but, so we got funny battle droid moments out of all this before they managed to escape the facility. In the process, the droid head gets blasted, and they all escape on the sisters' ship, and they're pissed off at the clones. Because clones, and hence they assume Empire, and they're like, you went for this without knowing who it was going to, and they were just like, we were paid to do a job, to find and deliver. We're not asked questions. And the sisters reveal that it was essentially the rebellion that was looking to get this information because, well, there are people that are trying to fight the Empire who need this, who need that intel. And when they part ways, the sisters are pretty much on good terms with Omega out of all this, but it helps that Hunter then hands like the data rod that they used to hack the droid head. He hands it over to the sisters. It was like Tech copied all the intel off the droid when it was plugged in. You guys are using it for the right reasons. And she makes a point of saying, it's like, you're just like everyone. Everyone's got to pick a side. Which made me start thinking a little bit about it, about where things could go from here. And we also got to see Omega actually shooting things pretty well with her energy bow, because she's a quick study.
Very quick study. I mean, if she was able to shoot Crosshair's rifle out of his hands, then I'm pretty sure she could handle a bow.
Then again, that could have been a lucky shot.
Could have been. I mean, it's like what you said. It's not like she was going to be like doing what River Song did.
Yeah, shooting like 3 guys dead without looking. She literally like glanced through the room, turned her head, and was like, scary, bang, 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 and 3 dead shots without looking.
No power in the verse can stop me.
Yep, but the whole thing about about everyone chooses a side, Hunter seemed to think about that for a bit, and we know that they're gonna try to free Crosshair. That's gonna be what they're gonna try to do. Probably once they successfully find a way to deprogram Wrecker, because that his chip is gonna keep fucking with his head. After we saw him, starting to do the good soldiers follow orders line.
You would think that Tech would be like, hold on, let me look at your head real quick. You've been having headaches for a while now.
And I imagine that that's going to get noticed soon. And we know that Tech is also working on a device that will allow him to basically access the chips, or like scan for them or whatever. So that's going to happen. I suspect they're going to go for Crosshair, but I'm also think that line, everyone has to choose a side, and I'm wondering if he's then going to be like, Crosshair didn't choose a side, because the choice essentially was made for him when they electroshock therapied him into being a brainwashed soldier of the Empire.
That could be it.
And I'm then wondering if they're going to try to then find a way to maybe try to free the other clones from the programming, if they can find a way to sort of switch off Order 66 from the source. Because we know that not all the clones make it to the time of the original trilogy. There's only like 3 clones that survive to that point.
That we've seen.
Yeah, but where are all the rest? There were millions of them. Why hadn't we run into any more? Unless they all got liquidated for some reason.
Possibly, or I'm sure that maybe there's obviously a reason why the Empire switched over to stormtroopers.
Cheaper.
Cheaper. Obviously not as efficient, but something probably happens to the clones. Like there's probably like a major battle or something, or maybe there's something in the DNA that that causes them to
degrade, maybe?
To degrade at some point in time.
Like the later batches, because they're using more degraded Django DNA, are viable for less time than the earliest batches. We don't know, but I suspect by the end of the Bad Batch, if it's a one-off season, then maybe we'll get an answer for that. If it's something that ends up becoming a multi-season thing, then they may hold off on that and spin it out a little bit longer until they finally give us an answer as to why all the clones went away. Because I really got the impression that the only reason Rex, Wolf, and Gregor survived is because they literally just went to ground and stayed under the Empire's radar.
That was a really smart idea that they did. But it's also a case of, like, who knows, some of the clones may have, because it's a big universe, it's a big galaxy, they could have just been scattered. So, hey, some may have taken up a
It's a big galaxy, but yet we keep going back to the same planets over and over again. We were commenting on that with when Jabba turned up. It's like they're going to go to Tatooine. I'm like, because everybody ends up going to Tatooine. It's like the nexus point of all realities.
Pretty much.
It's been in every trilogy now. We went there in Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure they went there at some point during Clone Wars.
I know the Clone Wars movie, they had to go rescue Jabba's son.
Right, and so there you go, because they had to deliver him back.
Yeah.
Back there.
Obviously, Episode 1, Episode 2. I don't remember. No, Episode 3. Yeah, well, that's when they were dropping Luke off.
But we've already covered the trilogies because we know they go back. They've been to Tatooine. All three of the trilogies.
Yeah.
At the very end, granted, of Episode 9, but still went there. And then so they visited it in Clone Wars, in Rebels. That great episode with the samurai showdown between Maul and Obi-Wan. Because you showed your dad that episode. And
it's the only episode of Rebels that he's ever seen, and I showed him the whole episode. I didn't explain anything to him. I was just sit down and watch.
We've been to Tatooine in The Mandalorian.
Several times, like 2 or 3 times now, right?
Well, it was in the first season where we first met Fennec Shand. And we saw Spurs, as we call them at the time. And then they went back there in the first episode of the second season because he'd heard that there was a Mandalorian on Tatooine.
And that turned out to be
well, it was just a guy wearing Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that Boba was still alive on the planet. Then they didn't. And then in the stinger at the end of the season when Boba rocks up into Jabba's palace, sees fat Bib Fortuna sitting on Jabba's throne, shoots him, and it's just sort of like, get off. And sits down and just like, this is mine now. If I fits, I sits. You keep what you kill. That strikes me as a very old school Mandalorian mindset too. Well, we know that already because Bo-Katan couldn't just accept the Darksaber from Mando when he didn't want it.
God damn it! I don't want it anymore. Just take it.
And she was just sort of staring at him like, I have to fight you for it.
And then like, I mentioned that after she got knocked out, he just like quietly went over, put the Darksaber right next to her,
and goes, she's not going to accept that.
I mean, it's not like she's just going to leave it there. She's going to find his ass, throw it to him, and say, "No, I'm fighting."
I cannot wait for season 3 of Mandalorian because I want to see where they're going to go with that whole thing. Because that Mando is going to now struggle with the truth. As he now understands it, that not all Mandalorians live the way that he did in the Children of the Watch, and and the way that the Night Owls and the Mandalorians like Bo-Katan live. He's going to try to find some sort of middle ground, I suspect. And I'm now wondering if we're going to get like well, we know the Armorer has to show up again at some point.
Oh, she has to.
And I'm wondering if we're going to get like a fight between her and Bo-Katan. And I really want to see that.
Hand to hand only, obviously.
I suspect so. And just Bo-Katan trying to rocket around. We haven't seen the Armorer wear a rocket pack, but she probably has one, unless she gave Mando her only remaining rocket pack. But then again, she's the Armorer; she can just make another one.
Possibly.
But I want to see that fight now. Bo-Katan versus the Armorer. Bo-Katan flying around, trying to shoot her with the blasters, maybe even with the Darksaber, and the Armorer just with her hammer and tongs and just bang, bang, pow, and just beating her down with it.
I've been at this longer than you have, child.
Well, no, I suspect they're probably about the same age, but the Armorer is just sort of like it's just sort of like, I don't need to fly to kick your ass, and I don't need a gun to do it either.
Well, she did knock out those stormtroopers. Well, beat the shit out of those stormtroopers.
I just thought of like a line that I kind of want to see out of that. It's just sort of like Bo-Katan saying, trying like talking smack, just being like, "Is this the point where you try to tell me this is the way?" And the Armorer just pulling out her hammer and tongs, and being like, "No, this is just the point where I beat you to death." And it just starts going off on her. But I can't wait for season 3 of Mando.
But what do you think is going to happen in the next episode?
A Bad Batch?
Yeah, because obviously we had that another mystery character.
Yes, because at the end of the episode, after the batch leaves, the sisters call up their contact in the rebellion. It's just like, we got the info. It was we got some help from a rogue batch of clones, and I know where to find them. And we don't see who they were talking to. It was just some figure in white. You said.
Yeah, so I was like, it could either be like Obi-Wan Kenobi, because we don't really know what happened to Obi-Wan between episodes 3 and 4.
That's going to come from the Obi-Wan series.
Whenever that happens.
The Kenobi is what it's called, that's right.
And, or you thought that it was Mon Mothma.
Well, because you basically, what musical cue did you say that you heard out of that?
It was like it sounded like a snippet of one of them, like, the moody music cues from the last few episodes of Clone Wars.
So at that point I was like, it's possible it could be Ahsoka, but while the sisters kind of viewed Ahsoka as like one of the good ones, we don't know exactly what's going on with Ahsoka. Probably will come from her series whenever that happens. They're going to do one.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see what happened to Ahsoka between
Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
How she became Fulcrum, kind of thing. But I suspected it could be Mon Mothma, because you said the person was wearing white, and there are only 2 people that we know of in the rebellion that wear white. One of them is Mon Mothma, and the other is Leia, but she is still just a baby.
Yeah. Because I know,
so we know that's not Leia.
Well, because I know that technically, chronologically, the next time you see her is in Rebels.
Yes, but Rebels is like
15
years later. Is like 15 years after this, thereabouts. 15, 16, 17. It's like a couple decades into the Empire, roughly. But yeah, it's just, so we know it can't be her. It could be Obi-Wan, or it could be Mon Mothma. I suspect it's probably Mon Mothma. If it's anybody, she'd be a lot younger at this point. But
oh yeah,
she's the only other person that I know of that is associated with the rebellion. Kenobi was mostly just lying low and keeping an eye on Luke.
Well, he was referenced. Yeah, he was referenced in Rogue One by Leia's dad.
Well, it's just all like
where he says we have a ally who's a former Jedi,
right?
And
it's like I have a contact that can get this information to him, and it's like, who is this contact? It's like, I would trust her with my life, kind of thing. Well, yes, but yeah. So that's how the information gets from the rebellion, from Bail Organa. I was trying to remember his name for a second. I was like, Bail Organa. Get from him to Kenobi. Basically makes the plan for it. And, well, we saw that they very nearly didn't get the information to Leia at the end of Rogue One, but at any rate. But Obi-Wan, at this point, I don't know. Well, maybe this is supposed to be like teaser tie-in for the Kenobi series, or possibly it's just Mon Mothma.
I'm going for Mon Mothma. I'm not putting my hopes on Obi-Wan Kenobi making appearances.
It would be cool if they brought him in, but at the same time, it's like I was sort of commenting, I forget if it was on this or while we were just watching, but they tend to reuse a lot of characters because Star Wars already has planetfuls of characters as it is. Making more it feels like they don't want to make too many new characters for each new series that comes along. They'd rather, reintroduce characters that we already know.
Especially since this is already so close to the ending of Clone Wars.
Right.
So it's only right to bring in characters from the last 2 seasons of that show. Yeah,
and reference stuff in earlier seasons. Reference, not necessarily.
It's like I remember in Force Unleashed, because the beginning of Force Unleashed takes place
on Kashyyyk,
and it's supposed to be like right at the start of the Empire's run, ruling the galaxy.
And they're sort of stamping out the last major centers of resistance.
Yeah, and in this case, they find out, there's a Jedi on Kashyyyk. It's hiding there, so go wipe him out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, you're playing as Vader, just carving your way through literally everything.
And you unlock an achievement for killing stormtroopers, too.
Yeah.
I remember that there was a part in the game where you come across, like, a pile of Clone Wars era, like, the clone helmets that they were wearing, and you hear... I think it's your ship's pilot say, "Oh yeah, this is it."
Like the droid, or
no,
it was the girl. Yeah.
Where she's like, "Oh yeah, this is where a major battle happened during the Clone Wars." Now I don't remember. It's been a while since I've played the game, but they didn't really go into a whole lot of detail in terms of what that battle was.
But then again, there were battles fought all over the galaxy. It doesn't necessarily have to be one we've already heard of. It's just sort of like they're like Jakku. For the sequel trilogy, when we saw a desert planet, everybody assumed we're going back to Tatooine. It turns out no, it's just another desert planet. There are plenty of those, but that there was a major battle fought here at the end of the Galactic Civil War.
Which you do get to play in Battlefront 2.
Right. But even so, it's just sort of like that was something completely new when that was thrown in there in the sequel trilogy. And I liked that they tried not to just go to the same planets over and over, the same planets we've already been to.
So what, you don't want to go and see what happened to the Rebel base on Hoth?
We've been to Hoth so many times in literally every single Star Wars game for like 20 years. Everything went back to the Battle of Hoth. I'm done with Hoth. I don't care anymore. It's like Tatooine, I understand it's a very significant planet in the Star Wars franchise. I understand we're always going to go back to Tatooine. But I don't need to see Hoth all the time. I like when they do introduce new planets, but I understand also at the same time why they sort of keep going back to the ones we've seen before, like Coruscant. There's so much going on at Coruscant because it's like literally a planet-sized city that you could set an entire video game there, like
1313,
like 1313 was going to be, and have plenty of stuff to do without having to go to another planet.
Well, I mean,
it's like GTA Coruscant.
Well,
I want that, and I want that game
if
now.
If we're gonna have a GTA style game, it needs to be set on Corellia.
Corellia would be a good one too, or maybe Nar Hutta.
Which one was that?
That's the Hutt's home planet.
Oh,
I mean, it's a planet controlled by a bunch of gangsters. Come on, you would have plenty to do there.
Or you take your orders from there.
That's also possible. Heck, I should You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. I wrote a thing for my writing blog where I was like, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, pitched an idea where it's like, I didn't specify any planets exactly, but it's like, yeah, you could go to various different planets to fulfill contracts and stuff. And I sort of pictured it like something of a Fallout New Vegas kind of thing, where it's just like you can try to balance your reputation among various groups, you know, the Imperial Remnants, the New Republic, because I was setting it like post Civil War, you know, kind of not around sort of the same time Mandalorian is taking place, but not going anywhere, you know, not necessarily intersecting with any of the events of Mandalorian, because you kind of want to try to keep some things separate. But it's like you could do these sorts of jobs. You can buy surplus supplies or armor or whatever from like the Imperial stores or the Republic stores or whatever. Or you do these jobs for the Bounty Hunters Guild. Hey, we've got new gear that you could buy here. It's like I said, I sort of wrote out generally how the concept would sort of go. And I'll put a link to it in the description, because I like sort of tooting my own horn about shit.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. When we did our Ramblecast about Assassin's Creed, I was just sort of bringing up a lot of the same ideas that I put in a writing blog that I did about. It was a good couple of episodes. It's interesting to see them sort of bringing in characters that some of us neither of us was really expecting, but it's because it's Dave Filoni, and he knows what Star Wars fans want to see. We want to see the characters we've seen before. We want to see stuff tied together. All the Easter eggs and shit.
It takes a fan to know what a fan wants.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, have Dave Filoni handle all the animated stuff and leave Jon Favreau to handle all the live action stuff. The two of them know what they're doing, and thank God they're the ones in charge.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say I am kind of nervous for the Rogue Squadron series that they're doing. Wait, is it a series or a movie?
I don't remember, but regardless, that thing, it's a little hinky. It's something a little nervous, because Rogue Squadron is a significant part of the Legends continuity.
Well, it's not so much as that. It's more like who they have directing it, because granted. I know that, I can't remember her name. It's the woman who directed Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Because, like, first Wonder Woman movie was great.
Mm-hmm.
Third act, not so much. But the movie was great.
Yes.
84, I'll say it's like what I said about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I said it's not a bad movie. It's not a bad sequel. It's just nowhere near as good as the first.
Because the first set such a high bar. But that's how a lot of sequels go. The second movie is always a letdown, because you usually have a high bar set by the previous one.
Usually it's the third movie ends up... Return of the Jedi. It's not as good as Empire. Yeah, let's face it.
Well, Empire was like one of the few exceptions to the sequel rule. Yeah. It was one that was better than the first one. As a kid, I didn't think so, but as I got older, I recognized just how good it was, and came to be like, yeah, that was good. And Return of the Jedi went from like my number 2 down to number 3 of the original trilogy.
But anyways, yeah, like I remember, like, you know, when Wonder Woman 84 was announced, and they were talking, you know, it was like, oh, Cheetah's going to be in it. Max Lord is going to be in it, you know, in terms of the characters, not the actors. And they brought Chris Pine back. I was like, okay.
I'm wondering how the hell do you do that, because he kind of blew up, but okay.
You know, and
then they gave an explanation as to why he's back in.
At least they explained it.
Yeah.
But the movie, like I said, not anywhere near as good as the first one. It's I say it's still watchable. It's just, you know, if you're a fan of the first one, you might be disappointed by 84. But anyways, so it was just like, it's like, okay, so you started off strong, and then it's like, then it kind of just like went down a bit. So now I'm wondering, like, because like she says that the reason why she wants to do Rogue Squadron is because her dad was an Air Force pilot, and she said that she wanted to do this as a way to honor
like Top Gun, but in space.
I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Who wants to be my wingman, Luke?
Wedge. It'll probably be Wedge.
It'll be Wedge saying that.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
So I'm honestly,
we want more Wedge.
So I'm honestly hoping that she has Filoni and Favreau helping her with this, so that way it comes out.
I imagine that they probably are. They'll probably be like, "You're the one in charge, but we are here if you need us, because we want this to be good." And we'll see. But there's so much Star Wars coming, and it's like later this year we've got Book of Boba Fett, and then I think Season 3? Or did they push Season 3 back?
I haven't heard anything about Season 3, other than it's going to time skip.
That's fair. I hope not too far.
Well, it's supposed to time skip to show, like the next time we see Mando with Grogu, Grogu is supposed to be much older at this point. So that way,
I'm wondering how that's.
So that way we're not gonna. So that way we're not gonna have a whole season without the character.
Because everybody loves Baby Yoda. Yeah. But at the same time, I'd be fine with it if they don't have Grogu in Season 3. Because is it the Baby Yoda show? Or is it the Mandalorian? Because they kind of need to prove that the show can work without the cute thing.
Like if they did like an episode, like
maybe the first half of the season before they bring Grogu in. But here's the thing: how much of a time skip is it going to have to be for Grogu to be much older? Because he's a yodeling, and they age slowly.
Very, very slowly.
He's a baby, and he's 50 years old. Yoda was 900 years old when we met him in Empire and Return of the Jedi, and he was nearing the end of his life. For him to be older and more capable of functioning on his own, that you're talking like several decades.
Well, it's also supposed.
By that point, Mando's going to be an old Mando.
Well, it's also supposed
he's going to have a big gray beard coming out from underneath that helmet.
Oh, this is the way.
This is the way.
But
I want to see an elderly Mandalorian now.
I think what I had read was that it's supposed to take place like 3 years after. After Season 2, I think.
That's enough of a skip that it's not too bad, and you can get further into the New Republic's time period and have the remnants, building towards.
Because I had heard that one of the actors that they were looking into getting for Season 3 for Mandalorian is somebody to play a younger Ben Solo.
Okay.
Because to show that he and Grogu were among Luke's students.
That's bringing up the whole uncomfortable subject that everybody's just sort of like, wait, so does that mean that Baby Yoda, that Kylo Ren killed Baby Yoda?
I highly doubt that. It's happen.
I suspect that Grogu is going to be off planet when that happens, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, ooh, it's like us with Moochie now. Just sort of like, ooh, no.
We're never gonna watch Return of the Jedi the same way ever again.
But yeah, it was a good couple of episodes. I have no idea necessarily where they're going to go with the next episode because, well,
it seems like they keep teasing us with stuff.
But it's I think they're just sort of setting the chess pieces in place for the last couple of episodes when we hit checkmate and everything starts slotting into place, kind of thing.
Yeah. So,
I mean. I think we'll probably see Admiral Rampart show up again soon because we saw like his holo being like register for a chain code today thing in the previous in episode 4 of Bad Batch. But after Crosshair's war crime, we haven't seen much of what's going on the Imperial side yet.
The Imperials are probably just like, all right, we need to sit you to the side for a little bit.
It's sort of like we appreciate your moxie. You're going to go places with this mentality, but maybe don't teach the recruits to do this sort of thing straight away. You got to ease them into it.
You're teaching them all the wrong things to do.
According
to their report, they try to do this.
It's like, and well, here's the thing: if Tarkin were to read that report, he'd probably be like, "Well done, promote that man." But Rampart, I suspect, is not quite that dark. He's still not necessarily a good guy. He's the one who came up with chain codes, and everything, which has a whole lot of uncomfortable implications when you stop and think about it. Because it's the chain codes that allow the bounty hunter, bounty pucks to track you by the time of Mandalorian. And so it's just sort of like, yes, we can exchange all of your worthless Republic credits for shiny new functional Imperial credits. All you need to do is give us a sample of your DNA.
And then I hand him my underwear and leave. As Rodney Dangerfield said.
It's just like, you want some of my DNA? There you go.
No, it's like Rodney Dangerfield said. He said, yeah, my doctor asked me for a urine sample, urine sample, stool sample, and a sperm sample. I handed my underwear and went home.
But yeah, so I think we're probably going to we're going to see some more of what the Empire's up to.
Because now we've gone 3 episodes without any of the Empire.
Yeah, apart, like I said, from just seeing the hollow, recording of Rampart in episode 4, and then nothing. So yeah, we're due seeing what Crosshair is up to, seeing if he's regretting his choices.
I mean, it kind of looked like he was like in some regret because of him looking around at all the bunks where the rest of the Bad Batch would.
It's like all the little personalizations they put on their bunks are there, but all of their gear is gone. There's the hash marks that that Wrecker carved in the wall.
It's like walking into your childhood home that somebody else has already moved into, and you see like the marks of like your dad marking like how tall you have been.
Basically,
it's still on the wall.
Yeah, it's like or put it another way, it's like when you move out of your house and like all of your stuff is gone. The furniture's still there because the movers haven't gotten that yet, but it's like all your bedding is gone. Like all of your bookshelves are empty and everything, and you're just sort of standing there in what is essentially like a mostly empty room, and you're just sort of like.
I was thinking the last episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where Will was just standing there looking around at everything, and then he leaves.
I made the reference to Toy Story 3 briefly while we were watching with Omega trapped on the conveyor belt that she's moving towards the furnace. It's just. But going back to like Toy Story 3, at the end, after Andy's packed up all of his stuff, and his mom is just looking around his empty bedroom, and you see her get a little bit choked up because it's like, my boy is moving out.
Yeah, I wish my dad got choked up when I was leaving. He's just like, about goddamn time you moved out.
Yeah, he's Marines, ex-Marine, right? Well, former.
Yeah.
Marine. There's no such thing as an ex-Marine.
Unless you're kicked out.
Well,
you screwed up.
Oh yeah, but Marines are not exactly known for their sentimentality. And honestly, if you had said that your dad was a sentimental type, I'd have been like, "Who are you, and what have you done with Chris?" Because I would have seen through that lie right away.
That's how you know.
And then you call him on it, and then he does the Donald Sutherland at the end of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, pointing a finger. But we're rambling now. We should probably wrap this up. It was a good couple of episodes. We'll be back to, hopefully by next week, we'll be back to doing it once a week.
Well, I'm off next Friday.
Next Friday was even better, so it's not going to...
So I guess we're doing Loki on Wednesday and Bad Batch on Friday.
Yep.
And then maybe something on Saturday, I guess?
Saturday or Sunday. Well, Sundays is still when I try to record stuff for the Hero Cast with Sam. More of those should be uploaded soon. He and I have been working our way through One Punch Man. I still need to upload more of that. But we've got we're also watching more episodes of My Hero Academia for season 5. So
yeah, I got to work on what I want to do for Solo Cast again, because I know I don't want to just do Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there, and maybe we'll get more Solo Cast stuff going. I don't know how much Solo Cast stuff I'm going to do, because I need somebody else to bounce off of, or my stuff ends up being just like 15-20 minutes. I need to have somebody to sort of talk with.
I mean, I kind of wanted the Star Trek stuff that I was doing to be short. I don't know why I didn't do Lower Decks when it came out.
You could still, do like a Rapcast, solo cast thing.
Yeah, but it ended like last year.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, we'll try to get Zeke in on some stuff. We've been talking about it, and we keep not doing it. We need to do RoboCop Prime Directive. With
that
him.
we do.
With him. He has been hammering us about that for the last year.
I've been waiting for us to do it. I've said I wanted to do it. It's just waiting for him.
Well, we can talk about this off mic for later, but look for that at some point in the future. We need to do it. Get Zeke interested in doing Bingecast stuff again.
Well, we also still got to do the SAC casting, but I'm waiting on him for that shit.
Well, that's another thing. But that will go ahead and wrap up this edition of the Mandocast. So for Chris, I am Jay, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to a Bored to Death Mandocast. Be sure to check out all the Star Wars content on Disney Plus and give us a like and subscribe. This is the way.